All right, welcome back everyone to another cybersecurity workshop. Today's workshop is going to be on deploying a keylogger. It's going to be based off of the workshop I did 2 weeks ago where I talked about the basics of keylogging. And so to start off, I'll just do a quick recap of like what keylogging is for people that don't know. So a keylogger is a form of malware that's software designed to record keystrokes. And you can find it as either software or hardware. A lot of times it will be through software, such as downloading a file from a phishing email, and that file might have a keylogger program attached to it. Or you can also find keyloggers in flash drives if someone put one on a flash drive and stuck it in the computer in a hidden spot. And today I'm going to be showing you how you can actually use a keylogger to extract keystrokes from a computer and send it to a different location. Last time I said there's different ways to do it. The simplest way is going to be through email, but you can also send it to a database, servers, websites. There's different ways you can send the data out, or you could just save it in a log file and then just every once in a while send a log file or text file outwards. But today I'm going to be showing you how you can use email to send the keystrokes of whoever your victim is, I guess. And so the first thing for understanding email is to know the SMTP. It's called Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. And it's like one of the basic ways that emails are sent through the internet. If you know how the post office works, where you put a letter in the outgoing mail and then the USPS picks it up and delivers it to the right location, you can think of SMTP in that same way. It just maps out the process of sending emails through the internet. And so you can see the picture here. It's basically you as a client will send your email out using this protocol, and then it will go to a server, and that server is going to verify that what you're sending out is correct. So it's going to check that you're the sender, the receiver is correct, and the message that you're sending is the correct message. And then we'll go from the server through the internet to another server that handles the side of sending it to the receiver, and then the user gets it through email. And this is a quick process. Like when you send an email, it happens pretty quickly. And as it sends, it goes through all these processes. And so the activity I'm going to be doing today is I redesigned the keylogger I did 2 weeks ago. So this last time I did a keylogger, it was just a simple one that would just record keystrokes and then save it to a log file. But saving it to a log file doesn't help you, because if it's on the person's computer, you don't have access to their computer most likely after you've put the bug on there. So you want to send it out some way. And so I've remodified it to send the keystrokes out periodically to an email using this SMTP, which is the protocol. All right, let me go back. And so now I'm going to go over the code that I have here. We have 3 modules, but this first module, get pass, is used for if you want to make this a legit program. You most likely wouldn't want your passwords being shown as you type them. So this allows the passwords to be hidden as you type them in. And then this here, SMTP library, holds all the protocols for SMTP that we need to be able to send email through Python. And so with that, the first thing that I'll talk about is these lines here. If you're going to send through email, you have to get the email as an input. And so when we start this program, what happens is if I run it, it's going to ask for an email. So I can say like joe@gmail.com. And then the password is hidden as you type it. So you won't see anything as it goes, but you can enter. And then it's gonna, with this line here, this is the line that you need to connect to the correct server. And so just like back, or hold on. When we go back here, you can see that there's a server that it's connecting to, an SMTP server. Each main provider, like Google, Hotmail, Yahoo, they all have their own email that you send it to. This is the server, and this is the port number that you have to send it to. And so you would create this as the server, and then you would log into the server. And then that way you're able to send messages to the email. But the way we're going to do it today is a similar way, but instead of sending it to an email, we're going to be sending it to a local SMTP server, which is, it acts the same way as an email. It just doesn't require you to have to make your email unsecure. Because to be able to send messages through email this way, you have to take off all the securities on your email, which makes it like vulnerable. People can attack your email, which I didn't want to happen. And so with this line here, the difference in this line is it's saying instead of sending our messages to an email or a server like Gmail, we're going to send it to the local host, which is my own computer, and we're going to use a port 1025. And then we can come down to the actual logger itself. We have variables that are empty for the log, the words, and then email character limit is going to be 25 for this case. All this means is that we're going to set it to send an email every 25 characters. And similar to last week, we have kind of the same function. This one's called onPress. And this happens with the listener. So the listener basically is just always active, listening for inputs on the keyboard. When it gets a press, when it sees that a user presses it, it's going to call the onPress function. And so it's going to call this function, and this function just has checks for everything you would need. It checks if there's spaces and enters, checks for backspaces, and then here is where it's checking for actual keywords, and it's storing them into the word variable. And then with all that, after every 25 words, it's going to send it to an email, or in our case, it's going to send it to localhost. And so if you wanted to send to an email, what you would use is these two lines. You would create a function kind of like this called sendLog, and it's going to be server.sendMail. This would be your email that you want to send from. So in my case, I would do something like my name @gmail.com. And then if I wanted to send it to someone else, I would say joe@gmail.com. And then the full log would include all the text or all the characters that you've saved so far. But in my case, since I'm using my own server, I'm going to be keeping the sender blank, and then the receiver is going to be myself, localhost. It acts the same way, just instead of sending it to an email, it's sending it to myself. And if we go back to here, I was going to mention how you can set up an SMTP server for yourself. It's really simple to do. If you're on Windows, you would just put this line here into your shell. And on Linux, you would put this line. Same thing, you just add sudo. And so let me do that real quick. And so when I run this command, I now have a server running that's accepting, basically it's receiving email text messages. And so instead of sending to an email, all the messages are going to be sent to this terminal here. And I can show that by running the program. And so right now the program is running, and this is blank. And then as I start typing and say, hello world, this is the Q project. And that, as you can see, it sent the message through. And so this is, if you're using an email, this is what you would see on the email. It would show who sent it, and then it would give this message, and you would be able to track this person's keystrokes incrementally throughout the day if you had this program running in the background on their computer. For safety reasons, I won't talk about how you can actually get a program running in the background on someone's computer, because you have to have their consent to do that legally. But with that, I'll ask if anyone has questions, and if not, we'll end here.
So,
Right.
when you set up the local SMTP server, do you have to do that every time?
Yeah, so the question was asking, when you're setting up the SMTP server, if you have to do it every time. You would. Basically, you just put this command into a terminal, and as long as it's running, it's going to work. And so you can see that my thing's ticking, so it's like it's open, the program's running. As soon as I cancel out, then it stops working. But you can have this running in the background constantly and just continue to receive text messages. Not
Okay.
text messages, email messages.
Yeah.